So guys, today we got the Galaxy S24 Plus versus the S24 Plus here, and let's go ahead and take a look at these two phones here. Is this worth the upgrade? I'm really curious to see what you guys think about the upgrade here. So the S24 Plus is typically going for around 700 to around 650 in the used refurbished marketplace, and you can find an S22 Plus for actually around the 300 to even lower than 300 if it's locked or unlocked. So it's a pretty affordable older flagship to buy. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about the hardware here. So we do have a slightly different design here. You can see they got rid of the cutout. That's basically the big difference here. They're both IP68 dust and water resistant. They both have that matte finish, and they both pretty much feel the same in the hand. The big difference here is actually going to be the size, since we do have a display upgrade. It is going to be a bigger phone here for sure. Not by much, but it is it is noticeable. But besides that, overall just some minor design changes here as far as it looking a little bit more flat on the sides here, but that is pretty much it for the hardware. So let's talk about the display. So we do have now a 6.7-inch display on the S24 Plus, and it is a 1440p display as well too. It is LTPO AMOLED, 120 Hz, HDR10 Plus, and then it does have 2600 nits peak brightness, 513 for the PPI. We have a slightly smaller display on the S22 Plus. It is the dynamic AMOLED, 120 Hz, HDR10 Plus, 1750 nits peak brightness, and this one is a 1080p panel, and it's 393 for the PPI. So the main upgrades here is that the max brightness is higher on the S24, so in direct sunlight it's easier to see. And then also we do have again a bigger display, which again that may or may not be an actual upgrade, but we do have full 1440p resolution on the Plus model now, which is actually something that I really like. I always disliked them giving the Ultra the 1440p and not the Plus. So yeah, I do like that this has the higher resolution, but the S22 still looks pretty good. Everything is pretty sharp. Bezels are still really good on the S22 Plus here. I wouldn't necessarily say you can't even really tell the bezel difference, honestly. It's really not that noticeable. So the S22 Plus still looks really good. I think the display upgrade is decent, but definitely not anything that most people would notice for the most part. Let's check out our benchmark scores here. So you can see a gigantic difference in the multi-core score with the S24 Plus here. So let's go ahead and talk about this. So we are running Android 14 on both of these phones. We do have the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 on the S22 Plus, 128 gigs and 8 gigs of RAM. On the S24, we have the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 processor, 256 gigs and 12 gigs of RAM. And these are the base models. So as you guys can see, just a big score difference in that multi-core. And then also, if you look at our 3D Mark, the biggest issue with the 8 Gen 1 is it kind of heating up a little bit. Like I said, I've never had that issue because I am not like a power user, but you can see 13 frames, 6, and then you can see they both lost a percent. This one is much cooler, started at 25, 30. This one 29 to 33, and then you can see the FPS here. So the S22 Plus will definitely get a little bit warmer than I would like just using the phone. The Snapdragon 888 and 8 Gen 1 are kind of like known for kind of heating up a little bit. Alright, so if we get into a little app launch test here, let's check out the speed animations. The S22 Plus has been really good with animations, and overall it doesn't feel jittery or slow or anything like that at all. Now, of course, the S24 Plus, because it has so much more RAM, it'll keep more applications in the background for sure. So if you're really like a power multitasker, then having that RAM is going to be really nice. But overall, I don't really see a difference in performance here. It's really hard to spot the difference. The S22 Plus is still really silky smooth, even though we have that massive, frame rate difference, or not frame rate, but we had that massive score difference in Geekbench. They still pretty much feel on par with each other, which is really nice. Let's go ahead and launch PUBG here. So as far as the gaming experience goes, The main thing that's going to pop out here is that if you are a gamer, less heating problems, like you really don't get any type of heating issues with the S24. This phone, it obviously it can get it, warm, but it's not getting anywhere near as warm as the S22 Plus in my opinion. And you get the full 120 frames on here. Genshin, whatever, this phone is gonna, just play games extremely well. So your gaming experience overall is gonna be a little bit better. I would say if you're a casual gamer though, I really wouldn't upgrade for gaming because the S22 Plus still does a great job. Like even now, like the S22 Plus is just a little bit warmer than the S24 here. We have 90 frames on here, so still really good being able to play at 90 frames, especially for this price point. Everything still looks good. Like I said, coming in here playing a couple matches, PUBG, Call of Duty, is perfectly fine. But if you're like actually like really consider yourself a mobile gamer, then this would be a pretty good upgrade. If you're playing for long periods of time, then it makes sense to get the phone that is gonna, one, get better frame rates, and then two, it's not gonna have so much heating problems and also cut into the battery. So yeah, so definitely take that into consideration. Alright, so software wise, I do want to talk about it. Again, 7 years of major OS updates on the S24 Plus here, and both phones actually do have the AI features. Now you don't have, I think you're missing like 1 or 2 AI features on the S22 models in general, but most of the essential stuff is actually here. So that's really cool, and it'll get the Android 15 update, which we will cover. I'm really excited for that. And yeah, so as far as like the software experience, it's really not that different right now. So in a few years, then we'll revisit this comparison. But right now, software feels exactly identical to each other. As far as the camera situation goes, you pretty much have the exact same specs. So both phones have a 50 megapixel standard. Both phones have 10 megapixel telephoto with telephoto, not with telephoto, but with 3 times optical zoom. And then you also have a 12 megapixel ultra wide. Both phones shoot in 8K 24, but the S24 Plus can shoot in 8K 30. You also do have a 10 megapixel selfie on the S22 Plus, and then that one can shoot in 4K 60. On the S24, it is a 12 megapixel, and that one also shoots in 4K 60. So pretty much identical specs for the most part here. Take a look at these side-by-side stills. Let me know what you guys think. Let's go ahead, and we got them at max volume. Start with the S22. Alright, so easily a better speaker on the S24 Plus. The S22 series in general had some of the weakest speakers that Samsung put out, in my opinion. And this one just lacks bass. It's not terrible, so don't get me wrong, it's not terrible. But compared to the S24, it just lacks fullness. It just doesn't sound full. It sounds very flat. So overall, I really like the speakers on the S24 Plus. They sound a lot better. As far as your other features, the fingerprint scanners are exactly the same. They're both ultrasonic. Face unlock is still the same. It feels just as fast. Lastly, we have to talk about battery life. So there's a minor change here with battery life, and it's not really minor. I think this is overall just, you do get better battery life on the S24 Plus, and it has a lot to do with this chip. So it's got a 4900 milliamp hour battery versus the 4700 milliamp hour battery, or 4500, excuse me. And then you also do have 45 watt charging on here, 15 watt wireless charging. You have reverse wireless charging on here, but they charge the same, and the overall experience is definitely a little bit better. The standby time is better on the S24 Plus, and overall you'll get a little bit better screen on time for the most part, especially if you put this in 1080p. The battery life is a lot better, but I run it in 1440p. But the S22 Plus, what's interesting about this is this phone does way better with the One UI 6.1 update with standby time. It used to be like okay, not that great, but this one and the S22 Ultra does a much better job. So I just thought that was interesting. But yeah, so battery life is not terrible on the S22 Plus, and it's definitely, the S24 Plus is definitely a slight step up. Would I consider this like upgrade worthy? No. But it is a little bit better, which is, you know, what we like to see, right? But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Be sure to let me know what you guys think, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.